Being copied feels violating and triggering. Does not matter what you do, you could be building a wardrobe, writing a book, or composing music. You have put hours, days, and sometimes even years into conceiving your style, writing the perfect melody, or maybe finding the right jacket that feels like you, and the next thing you see is that someone made it their own. You feel infuriated and wonder, why do people do that after all? Is it because they got something against you? Perhaps spoiling your hard-earned novelty is a subtle form of revenge they enjoy. Or is it because the ability of being creative lies beyond a special form of helplessness, a hindrance that separates you from them? What is this helplessness after all? This is what we are going to uncover in this video. If your idea or style was stolen that left you feeling perplexed about such behavior, this video is going to unshackle this mystery. So without further ado, let's begin. The first reason copycats do what they do is because they have already surrendered to the system. When I say system, I mean theorems and rubrics in school, templated workflow at the workplace, and so on. Ironically, systems run the world as they provide us a structure, but those structures also become our cognitive outlines. We tend to fall back upon these outlines every time we perform a task or brainstorm ideas. A popular TikTok video vividly demonstrates this phenomenon. I'm sure you must have watched this video yourself, where we see a teacher mess with our mind by first prepping our minds to relate the shape of the object to the respective shape of the holes. However, he then proceeds to put all shapes into the square hole. Most viewers could not anticipate the digression from the teacher. Why? Because people simply tap into their cognitive conditioning to match the corresponding shapes of the object to the corresponding shape of the hole. This is how most people think. In an effort to provide structure, the system ends up messing up everyone at a cognitive level, be it solving puzzles or coming up with something novel. This hidden tendency is everywhere, affecting almost everyone except a few. Hence, if you're thinking outside your cognitive outline and conditioning, it is a great sign. You have the courage to creatively subvert this conditioning, something the copycats don't possess. They are afraid to be wrong, and in that quest, they keep on going deep into the system where the established rules become their only reference point. But unlike them, you exist within the system, but do not tend to use its established rules as crutches. If you're creative, you can weave together unrelated elements that the copycat might see as outliers. They are so dependent on the systemic cognitive shortcuts and conditioning that all they can do is create something stale or copy others. If you're not constrained by the systemic cognitive shortcuts, then congratulations, because unlike them, you manage to remain creative while staying connected to the system at the same time. Such ability demands a high level of detachment and living a life with singular focus. Perhaps one of the greatest examples of this can be Steve Jobs. Steve was connected to the system in a way that he understood how technology worked, but he also had the unique ability to integrate his own insights on human interaction into the existing framework. In fact, this ability of his made the world shift from this to this in the mid-80s. Back then, using command line input was the norm. Evangelists of the command line input were so deeply embedded and conditioned by its glory and capabilities that they dismissed the GUI or the graphical user interface promoted by Apple. However, similar to how you conceive ideas that copycats cannot, Jobs could think beyond the command line input. That is nothing but reaching past one's cognitive conditioning. Now, you don't have to be Steve Jobs, but your ability to go beyond your present cognitive conditioning is what makes the difference. And that perhaps comes from a lifelong attitude of being a rebel. The copycats can neither match your ability nor go back in time to correct their attitude. Hence, all they do is copy. The second reason is a behavioral reason, and that is jealousy. Yes, copycats are usually jealous people, and that poses an obvious question. Why? Where does this jealousy stem from? Probably because you can do something fun while they cannot. Yes, of course, but we need more nuance to unravel this motivation. As we discussed earlier, copycats remain confined by their cognitive conditioning, unable to break free from established mold. This makes them ineffective at conceiving original ideas. It's almost like there is no inner voice or a guide, and in the absence of that, they turn to the outside world for inspiration. They create idols and wish they can hijack or replicate their vibe to create the same type of magic. Only problem with this approach? It is futile. Unless the mental faculties are not able to derive, extrapolate, or frame original ideas, following a big name just leads to a form of idealization. In fact, I have seen many copycats exhibit this behavior, blindly believing influencers, being die-hard fan of superstars, and worshipping them as idols all point to the same tendency. Buried in their own shortcomings, they see their idols beyond comparison. When you build or create something original, the copycats feel deeply unsettled. They think, how can you pull off something original that they cannot? They have always believed such brilliance belongs to those who are far beyond their reach or capabilities. But your originality forces them to draw comparisons. At that moment, they feel small and insignificant. This feeling of belittlement triggers a need to reclaim their status. And the way they do that is by encroaching into what rightfully belongs to you. Does not matter if that includes theft or blatantly emulating large part of your work or your style, because in their minds, copying is not theft anymore, it's about survival. And as they do so, they feel multitude of conflicting emotions. Their drive to express creatively and be acknowledged for it could be crushed by your originality and creativity, sending them into a spiral of jealousy and hate. But because you pulled off something they cannot, the feeling of jealousy is often wrapped within a feeling of admiration as well. It is a weird way to feel, and it often shows in their behavior, expressed by intent praise, followed by sarcasm, attempts to one-up, and so on. However, a feeling of respect does not always mean that they are going to swing into action and start creating. This is because lasting success never happens overnight. It takes grind and time. Copycats haven't walked that path. They haven't endured the solitude, the failed experiments, or the self-doubt that forges authenticity. Instead, they have surrendered, not just to the system, but to the challenge of becoming original. All they are doing is to show that they are relevant, which looks like a demonstration of desperation instead. They are not in the game anymore. Unlike you, they haven't committed to the journey. They have already opted out. They have given up listening to their soul. Please like, share, and subscribe if you loved the content.